Oops.
Okay, are we ready to go? Let's do it. So today, the symbol you see is a rope with some loose knots, and we're going to tie them up today. That's our goal. We are going to wrap up the culturally responsive teaching in the brain and make one more quick connection between authenticity and the 5E framework. Because we've connected so far authenticity and how people learn, and 5E and how people learn, and now we're going to connect authenticity and 5E. It should be a piece of cake for you guys. And then we're going to summarize some strategies for serving gifted and talented students, and then we're going to talk about next steps. So that's where we are today. We're actually going to do these things in order to accomplish that. That's our agenda. We'll try to stick to it. And we are so glad y'all came back to join us today. Thank you for hanging in there all week. We are going to start out with the Padlet you did yesterday in the evening, and Pat's going to go ahead and talk us through that.
Okay, you ready? Or you want to go through the rest of the agenda?
Oh no, I figure they can read the agenda. We talked about the goals. So
okay, good. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull up that Padlet, and plus you can also pull up the Padlet. And Shane, if you'll put the Padlet link into the chat for them, that way it'll be easier for them to find. What I'd like you to do is I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to cruise over what your colleagues had mentioned about the books that they reviewed. So you kind of get a little gist about that. And then we'll pull back and have a discussion about using some of the books in your classroom and some suggestions. And don't forget, if there is a column over there, like if there's a book that you would particularly like in your classroom, to mention that in the last column. I did notice that Noah has a couple extra suggestions in the column about extra books that weren't on this list, which is great. Okay, so if you go to your Padlet, remember there's a scroll bar down here so you can see all of them. I'm just going to give you a few minutes to read, and I'll be quiet.
oh, Pat, we forgot to have them change their names.
No, we'll do that after. There's time for that.
Just a reminder.
That's good. like that book. If you will use your reaction button and give me a thumbs up if you're ready to have a short discussion about the books, I appreciate that. Okay. Okay, great. Good. Okay. Looks like I only have a couple people ready, so I'll wait a couple more minutes, give you a little more time to read. Oh, I got some more thumbs up. Good. Okay, I think we are ready. So, what was, did you see any, not within the books, but within the comments, did you see any commonalities or something that was kind of all the way across the board that teachers, you were mentioning about the books?
I had one that just popped up on Grasshopper Girl. Sometimes there are books that are really hard to read because the words, we don't know how to say the words. And Jay Lee put that on there, and I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think also we were talking about that a little bit before, Audrey. I think that also helps your students realize that we as adults are lifelong learners, and that it's okay not to know how to pronounce all the words. And we go out and we find people that do know how to pronounce them, and we're going, oh, that's how they said it. You know, so that's great. Janice, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. Also in the book, Hammond talks about one of the ways to think about being a culturally responsive teacher is to just be your authentic self. So I think that's an example of that.
Yeah. So what else? Let's just kind of throw it out for comments on what you found out about the books, how you might use them in your classroom. Would it be okay to just have, you know how lots of times, especially in the lower elementary or even 4th and 5th grade, they love it. I mean, you have your story time and you just pull one of these books out and read it to them for enjoyment. What would be some of the benefits of just reading it like that?
I used to teach high. I mean, I am just now entering the elementary world, so I'm on a learning curve. But I taught high school for the last 12 years, and then junior high before that. But even like my 17-year-olds, my 13-year-olds, they liked children book story. Like I could use it as a, I would use like children's books as an introduction to a topic, Revolutionary War or World War II. And they loved, like, even when they're 17, have you read the book, show them the picture. And so I think that regardless of what age it is, good for just story time. Doesn't matter how old they are.
Good. Well, and if you look at the chat, Janice said that she noticed a lot of people use the word enjoy in there. I think all ages love being read to. And then I also noticed some of the comments in there about different narrators. Definitely, there are different qualities on the YouTube readings. And because there were a few that the book was almost ruined by the reader. And I was like, no. And so you have to be careful how you're picking those. Picture books have a place all over. Yeah. And actually, people think that picture books are written for 1st and 2nd grade readers, but they're not. The words in the picture books are not 1st and 2nd grade reading level usually. They're usually written on about 4th or 5th grade reading level.
I think, a lot of these, so many good comments on this Padlet. I really enjoyed reading a lot of these, and I think some of these are just such great books and examples. But, they're great books too for some of the normal ELA things we would teach, right? Like, so character and setting. I think that's what Amy may have posted too, plot. So it's not like we have to go into the cultural aspects with every single book, just teaching these just because they're good books to teach with, or they have a theme that crosses into something else we're teaching, I think is also something that's beneficial to students.
And can I make one more point too? The point of the exercise, of course, was to have us think about those characteristics of good multicultural books. And if some of this, if you look at this and some of this doesn't, mesh with what you're thinking or feel like it's right for you, then it's better not to do it just because if it makes you uncomfortable or something, because I just want to point out, we're not saying that these are the best multicultural books. These are just some books that we found that we thought looked pretty good on this scale. And there are some of them, as some of you guys pointed out, that would need to be framed or presented in certain different ways. And so that's all part of that thinking about being a multicultural teacher.
I thought a lot of your your comments in here, you guys. This Padlet's going to be available to you. So if you're choosing to read, you know, one of these books, you might come back to this Padlet and look to see what someone else said about it. Because the one book, where was it? It was the one about talking about framing it, letting the kids know about the person ahead of time, and then reading the book. I thought was really important. I also noticed that the books just were about everyday kids doing everyday things. And I thought that was just great because it was just like, not like, oh, we're going to focus on this. It was just like regular kids living in a community doing regular kid things. So
well, I think that's important for authenticity, to give the students a real world connection. That's what we've been talking about this week.
yeah, definitely.
Great point.
Thanks, Noah. That was Ron's Big Mission was the book that I was thinking about. Yeah, it would be important to talk about, maybe to read a little bit about Ron before you actually read the book and give the kids some context in that place. Any other comments, questions, something you want to ask someone else in the group, or just share about your thinking about children's literature within context of a lesson? Good.
I did kind of have one, just sort of a general observation or question. In trying to be more culturally responsive, we try to be more inclusive into other people's cultures. And as I mentioned yesterday, it's easy for the students to get excited about something that's new and often want to kind of pounce on the subject or representatives of different cultures, which can be rather intimidating. And I'm just wondering, how are there suggestions or ways that you can sort of tread this minefield carefully? Because it's not without a little bit of trepidation that no matter what kind of culture you want to bring up in a classroom setting, kids seem to kind of sink to the lowest common denominator in terms of their reaction. And so they kind of turn everything into a stereotype, and that's exactly what you're trying to avoid. So just thoughts on that would be appreciated.
Okay. Well, we're going to pull that over to Amy if she doesn't mind. And Amy, would you share some of your thoughts on that?
I think you have to create a classroom culture, and it's tricky to do, but at the beginning of the year, when you talk about like how you react to people's comments, you have to just remind them that you don't have to say everything that you think, and that sometimes you just need to listen and process, and that everybody comes from different cultures and perspectives, and they may not be comfortable sharing about that at this time. So if you have questions, you might make sure you direct them to the teacher and not to a student, because we don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable, because our classroom's a safe place for everybody. That's my best recommendation, is just to make sure that that's your culture, where they know that they're not going to a particular student for answers. They come to you because you're the classroom facilitator. And if that student wants to raise their hand, if anybody wants to add something, they're welcome to do that, but they're not obligated to do that. I like to say, I noticed that someone seems to be feeling uncomfortable right now, so why don't we stop? Or I noticed that he seems like he really wants to share, so let's let him share. Just noticing the temperature of the room and paying attention to that, and you being the facilitator and making sure that if it starts to be uncomfortable, you put a stop to it.
Basically, just start being a little more aware of how people are feeling about things that are said. And somebody, I don't remember if we said this in the group yesterday, but somebody had said that we ask the person beforehand if it's the only person in the room from that culture. And we say, we're going to read a book about this. Do you mind sharing something, or would you rather I just tell them about it in advance?
Heads up. Yeah. And one of the joyful things about a lot of these books were, like I had said before, they were just about kids doing everyday kid things and common themes like kindness, bravery, all across the board. So instead of focusing on particular culture, you'd be focusing on that aspect of it, the kindness or bravery. How did this person, show that he was brave, and how could you show that you were brave? So
I think that's really important too, that not every multicultural book we have to focus on the cultural aspect. We can focus on the themes that we all face, or that all kids, may be thinking about, or, I think that's important too, that these are just part of our curriculum, and maybe there's one or two or however many that we focus on the cultural aspects, but at the same time, there's some that that's who the main character is or what the story's about, but we're focusing on kindness, or we're focusing on, bravery, or whatever it may be, that those are common kid things. And so I think that's important too.
Or onomatopoeias.
Onomatopoeias. Exactly.
Or
common learning skills.
Setting, so just the things that are in our standards, that we teach.
Exactly.
About that. Okay. Well, if there's no more comments, we're going to move on to.
But first.
Oh, yes.
We are going to ask you all to change your names on the screen, and we have actually a reason for that. You don't have to become a new name. In fact, please don't.
Please don't.
But we are going to group you guys for our last activity today in grade level groups, and we realized that we don't know what grade everybody is going to teach next year, or grades. So if you guys would go in and rename yourselves, and we'll tell you how to do that in a second, and just add your grade level that you'll be teaching next year to your name, that would really help us make groups. So to rename yourself, go to your name in the participants and click on the more arrow, and you'll have an option there to rename yourself.
I think you can also just right click your picture.
Yeah,
if you want.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah. And we'd like you to put
Better.
the grade level in front of your name. So if you're teaching 3rd grade, put a 3 in front of your name. If you're not sure, just put what you think you're going to be teaching next year. Okay, good. So I've got 1st, 3rd, 1st, 1, 3rd and 4th. Okay, 1st grade, kinder. Okay.
I like how Dewey said he's a 1st grader.
Right.
Put the ER on there.
4th grade, 1-5 reading. Okay. Okay. We're still kind of waiting for, let me see who else. Okay, Tammy's got hers. She's 5th. Okay. So Earl's doing 6th grade. Tina, we don't have Tina's yet, or Audrey's yet.
I think I know Tina is might not be able to right at this exact moment, because she's said she might be in the car.
Oh, okay. And Diana,
2nd grade.
we'll pick her up in a bit. Okay.
Tina teaches 2nd grade.
Tina teaches what grade?
2nd.
2nd? Okay, well, that's good to know. Okay.
Diana said she didn't get all the instructions. We're just renaming our name so that we have our grade level on it, so we can make groups later. And you just go to your picture or to the participant list and click the more or the ... dots, and there's an option to rename yourself. Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about Kahoot. Okay, if you've never played a Kahoot before, you'll want to There's a couple ways to do it. The questions on the Kahoot, it's a quiz game. So there's going to be a question, and then you're going to have 4 options to pick from. The questions are going to show up on the screen that you're seeing right now. The one that says Kahoot CRT wrap up, that's where the questions are going to show up. So you can play it in 2 different ways. You can have that screen on your laptop or your desk, whatever you've got, and you can use the app on your, or go to the website Kahoot.it on your phone to actually punch in the correct answers. Another way to do it, if you don't want to use your phone, is you'll have to open another tab, keep your Zoom screen separate, open a whole nother tab, and go to Kahoot.it and play it, do the answers on that one. Now, I haven't given you the pin yet, because once I go there, then it generates the pin at that time. And feel free to call out if you're having trouble getting to it. So it's www.kahoot.it or the Kahoot app on your phone.
Do they have to actually download the app, Pat?
You can use it on your internet browser. You can use it, you can download the app if you want to, or you can, oh, there you go. Good, Tammy. Okay, so I'm going to go to, whoops, wrong one. Sorry. Okay, so I'm at the Kahoot. We're going to play this one. Okay, we're going to play this, and we should be able to get a pin pretty soon. You can make this really loud.
Let's not.
I feel like I need to be like my kids and say, can we use a nickname? Or do we have to use our real name?
You can actually use the nickname if you want to.
Yeah.
We aren't.
Every time we play, that's the #1 question.
Right. Well, and what's so funny is when they hear the music, they get real excited. That's why the music is so fun, but I like to keep it down.
Yeah, I like to make up a nickname for this.
Ooh, we have Bojangles. We have Duck. Love that. I have a brother-in-law that goes by Fish.
Bojangles. Yeah, we got it.
Let's have 15, 32, 1, 2, 3,
16.
Oh, Duck.
Who's my favorite taco lover or fellow taco lover? I love tacos.
That would break the anonymity boundary. I couldn't decide if I want to say boundary or bond.
I like Early's duck instead of mallard.
I like that too. That's so cute.
And I know who George Eliot is.
Who? Share. No.
Noah.
Okay. Favorite author?
Guilty.
I know you too well, hon.
Whoever is shellfish, I'm gonna have to stay away from you because I'm allergic to shellfish. So I don't know who you are, but keep your distance.
We have 18 so far, so we're waiting for a
There's
few.
probably a couple in their car that are driving who probably don't want to play while they're driving. In fact, please don't. You think that would be an incredibly bad idea?
You can listen though, because I'm going to read the questions, even though they'll be printed up there. I'm still going to read them. Good, 21. We're getting there. Okay. I love the way you guys help each other out in the chat too. Do this, do that. We are teachers. 22.
Janae, if you can't get the app to install, you can just go in and into the website and type it in and it'll still work. Whee!
Huh. Russell, I didn't know that. That's good to know.
Really? That's great.
I didn't know it did that.
Shelley, thank you. Those directions are much clearer than what in the chat, she said, if you have dual screens, you can pull the Kahoot it over on the screen while you leave Zoom up on the other one. That's much clearer than what I was trying to say. Okay. I think that might be everybody. Oops, I just lost one. Oh, no, they're back. 25. 20, Back down to 24. I had 25 people. Okay. Okay. I think we're steady at 24. If for some reason you lose it, just do it. Just do your answers on paper and pencil and look at the screen. But I think you'll enjoy it more this way. So, okay, are we ready, Janice?
I'm ready.
Which level of culture is made up of tacit knowledge and unconscious assumptions that govern our world view? Shallow culture, deep culture, schema, or surface culture? Huh.
Shouldn't it stop by itself if we have 24 answers, Pat?
Yeah, I thought it did, but we must have 25 people on.
Okay.
So it must be waiting for that last one. Okay.
Looks
So,
like the majority of people put deep culture. That is the correct answer, and you'll notice it has the correct answer checked. So just as a quick review, deep culture is the mental models or the schema that help us unconsciously or subconsciously interpret information. They're so deeply ingrained that we don't even actually have to think about them. I'm going to read a quote from the book. Two people from different cultures can look at the same event and have very different reactions to it because of the meaning they attach to the event based on their deep culture. So it's that unconscious thing that happens in our brain. That's where our biases live. That's where our automatic fight or flight kind of reactions, that's where they are triggered. So if you put schema, which, oh, actually nobody did put schema, good job. It really kind of is about schema, but it's called deep culture.
oh. Okay.
Just a note, if you've never played Kahoot before, you get points for being correct. You also get points for speed, which is why I'm not in love with this, but, oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Which level of culture is made up of the unspoken rules around everyday social interactions and norms?
Same choices, almost.
I know these are kind of hard.
Well, you have to think, it's words.
Oh, come on, come on, come on. We're almost out of time. We got 2 more.
Too late. So you can see that the correct answer is shallow culture. And sometimes I get shallow and surface culture confused because they seem like they sound the same, but surface culture is that culture right on top where it's just the kinds of things that we looked at in the lesson, clothing, holidays, that kind of thing. Shallow culture are the mental models that govern our own culture's rules and norms. So this is the level where we build trust and rapport with one another. That's how we kind of keep ourselves safe. And so sometimes this is an emotionally charged level because sometimes people don't understand one another if they're from different cultures.
Whoa.
T. Will forges into the lead. Are you going to read it, Pat?
Yep. What is one characteristic of a group being oriented towards collectivism? Group interdependence, technology-oriented, individual achievement, or focused on independence? Almost there, almost there. Oh.
Just guess. So pretty much everybody got this one right. It's group interdependence. So just as a quick reminder, these are like 2 archetypes. There's the collectivism and the individualism. So in collectivism, we have an emphasis on relationships and interdependence, and individualism emphasizes achievement, individual achievement, and independence. And so the roots of that are, we are a melting pot culture here in the United States. And so most European cultures are rooted in individualism, and a lot of people are from European descent. And collectivism is common among Latin American, Asian, and Middle Eastern cultures. So that's kind of the roots of where sort of there's differences in cultural archetypes in the United States. Also in America, the dominant culture tends to be more individualistic, but there are lots of non-dominant cultures in the United States that do embrace collectivism. A lot of African American communities do, Latino communities, Pacific Islanders, Hawaii, and other island nations, and Native Americans. So the one thing to kind of remember about that is neither of those is a bad thing, but really our brain is wired toward collectivism because it's actually genetic. Collectivism enhances our chances for survival.
Hey, okay, here we go. Oh, T. Will is still on the top.
Audrey zooming.
Which of these statements about memory is most correct according to research and the information processing model? Memory is retrieving stored information. Memory is storing information. Memory involves reconstruction of retrieved information. Memory occurs in the reptilian brain.
Yay. So this was kind of a big thing in our pre-work. The research shows that memory isn't just stuff you pull out of long-term memory. Memory is not long-term memory. It is also short-term memory or working memory. And what that means is even the smallest piece of information that you pull up is processed in some way in working memory, no matter how short it is. So we actually, that's why we remember things different than other people sometimes.
Oh. Whoa. George is in the lead. To prevent an amygdala hijack and avoid responding negatively, Hammond suggests using which of these strategies? Snap, clap, pop, study, evaluate, think, act, or stop, observe, drink, abandon, or stop, observe, detach, awaken. Almost there. Oh, time's almost up. Come on. There's a couple more people. Ah.
Hey.
One
of
out.
course, there's always at least one person that does stop, observe, drink, and abandon, always. And snap, clap, pop. Those were our favorite strategies. The one that Hammond's mentioned is stop, observe, detach, and awaken. So if you're in a situation that's kind of tense with a student, you want to stop, take a look around, sort of detach a little bit, and then that's where your cognition kicks in and you go, oh, maybe it's this instead of this. So it's actually a strategy for avoiding responding negatively in situations. It actually applies to all situations, but she's talking about situations in which there might be cultural misunderstandings.
I could see though where people put the study, evaluate, think, and act.
Yeah, that was supposed to be hard, make it hard because the other two were easy.
Okay. Oh, George is still at the top. Which of these pictures shows an animal experiencing an amygdala hijack?
Just 5 seconds left.
Oh, hurry.
Put your answer on there. Yeah. We gave you less time on this one, sorry. It's the cat. When your amygdala gets hijacked, you go immediately into panic mode. That's the whole point there. So actually, when you think about, I'm going to do just like a quick rerun of the parts of the brain. So just because I want to clear up sort of a misconception that you might, if you might have it, our information processing model was just that, a model. We used a computer as the metaphor, but really our brains are much more than a computer. So yes, we do have the sensory memory, working memory, and long-term memory, but it's not just in one place in the brain. It's all over, where different places have different parts that have to do with the working memory and the long-term memory. So that you have your reptilian brain, that's our evolutionary original structure of the brain. Most animals have this. It just senses and reacts. The limbic region is another area of the brain that's in more complex, higher animals. It's where you control your attention, and your thalamus works with the RAS, which I just forgot what that stands for, and I actually know it, but they route signals from what you get from the outside to the place where it's supposed to go in the brain. Your hippocampus is actually your memory, your working and long-term memory. And then your amygdala is the very first thing that the stuff hits when it comes in, and your amygdala has permission to completely bypass the whole rest of the brain and go straight to your reptilian brain. So that's what we mean by an amygdala hijack. And then the final level of your brain is the neocortex. And this has not been around for very long, and it's what makes humans and certain other animals, but not very many, different from other kinds of animals. It is actually a command center for your brain, and it oversees your thinking and manages your working memory. So we as humans have sort of a control center in our brain that sort of manages all the other things too. And that's why we have the capability to think abstractly, organize, plan, self-regulate. So it's important to remember that, and this is a big point from the book, that in the first line of defense is your sense that you need to stay safe. Go ahead, Pat, you can go to the next one. Sorry about the long lecture.
No, that's okay. Here we go. All but one of these is a practice that follows Hammond's culturally responsive brain rules. Which one is not? Is it not challenge and stretch the brain beyond its comfort zone? Is it not provide a safe learning environment? Is it not utilize stories, art, music, and movement? Or is it not place more emphasis on individualism than collectivism? Well, we just got 2 more people. We're getting there.
These are people like me who don't really care if they win. They just want to get it right.
All right.
So the emphasis on individualism over collectivism is incorrect. It's the other way around, because as we said earlier, collectivism is kind of the way our brain is wired. The rules that she came up with that you guys did in your scavenger hunt, there are some other things in the rules besides just that, but safety is the, protection one, the safety one. Stories and music, that's helping people process information. And challenge and stretch, a lot of you mentioned that in your comments in the pre-work. And this is also promoting positive relationships and getting learners' attention. So those 6 rules are really, really, I think, valuable as a way of starting to think about being a culturally responsive teacher. And everybody did well.
Oh, George is still at the top.
Come on, George, give us a break.
Which of the following is an example of deficit thinking? Culturally diverse students fail because their families don't value education. Culturally diverse students struggle because of social inequities. Dependent learners need support to become independent learners, or students need time to play and have fun. Which of the following is an example of deficit thinking? I'm laughing because I'm reading the chat.
Coffee is a coping mechanism for stress.
Okay.
Very good. So this one is a little harder. The answer is culturally diverse students fail because their families don't value education. That is a stereotype. And it's not true. Their families don't always not value education. That was a double negative. So that's what we call deficit thinking. We put all people into a category saying, oh, well, they're culturally reverse. Their families must not value education. The other one that's kind of looks like it could be the right answer is culturally diverse students struggle because of social inequities. That is true. I mean, that's not about, that sounds like it's deficit thinking, and you could maybe categorize it that way. But basically, it is true. They do struggle because of that, but that's not a stereotype. That's just a reason for you to think about how you're treating the students that are from culturally diverse backgrounds. The students need time to play and have fun. They just do. It's true. That's not deficit. That's a thing that you should do for students, as is support to become independent learners.
Nobody's knocking George out. Which of the following would not be a good way to build personal and authentic connections with students? Establish trust and rapport would not be a good way. Boost students' self-esteem, believe in students' ability to succeed, or show appreciation for students' individual traits.
Oh no, running out of time.
Well, I must not have had
You must have put the wrong one on.
I must have had that one on 30 seconds instead of 60. I'm sorry.
That needed to be a minute. That was a hard question.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys. So the correct answer is boost students' self-esteem. And it's hard because it sounds like, oh, well, you should definitely boost their self-esteem. And just trying to boost their self-esteem is not a good way to build a connection, because if you just tell them all the time, oh, you're doing great, you're doing good job, that is not doing anything for their self-esteem, because their self-esteem comes from within. So they have to succeed, basically, is what learning research says. So establishing trust is definitely authentic. Believing in students' ability to succeed is definitely, I believe in you. Not you're great, but I believe in you. And show appreciation for their individual traits. So all of those things build that trust and rapport that make authentic connections. And I'm going to just point out one thing from the book that stuck out to me. She had a little equation that was rapport plus alliance equals cognitive insight. So I feel like that kind of sums it up. It reassures students that rapport, that they are safe and cared for, builds support for independent learners, and actually creates what she calls a learning partnership, which is different than other kinds of relationships. You guys are partners in learning, you and your students.
Oh,
Sarah forged into the lead, just a little.
which of the following is not a characteristic of a warm demander type of teacher? So we're looking for the characteristic that is not a warm demander. Very competent with the technical side of instruction, clear focus on building rapport and trust, encourages productive struggle, able to support independent learners better than dependent learners. So you're looking for the characteristic that is not a warm demander.
Aha.
And I think I know why a lot of them pick the red, because I saw that word technical and they think of technology. And that's not what it means in that context. It means more of the pedagogy. And
Yeah, so when we refer to technical side of instruction, we're referring to your pedagogy, if you're good with your pedagogy.
yeah, but I saw that and I went, oh, I bet.
Oh, no, absolutely. This was kind of a hard question a little bit that way, but really it gives me an opportunity to one more time reiterate the characteristics of warm demanders. One is they focus on rapport. Two is that they show personal attention to their students. They make personal connections. Three, and this is the one we often don't do well, they hold high standards for their students, but they also support them in getting those standards and are achieving those standards. You call that tough love. And then encouraging the productive struggle. That's the other characteristic.
Okay. We've got some movement in there. Which of the following is a type of instructive and actionable feedback? When you wrote the word baby as a plural, you forgot to change the Y to I. Fix the commas. You need more examples in your report. Nice work. We're looking for a type of instructive and actionable feedback. Well, we're almost there. We just got a couple more people.
I don't think we've ever gotten 24, Pat. I think there's a ghost 24 person in the system.
Yeah, there might be. Or, yeah, somebody that logged in and logged out. Oh.
So when you, 16 is considered the correct answer. Sorry, 16. I was looking at the number. When you wrote the word baby as a plural, you forgot to change the Y to I. The main thing, the main characteristic of actional feedback is it's instructive, but not evaluative. You're not evaluating them in any way. You're just giving them some information about what they did. So U is the next closest, sorry, I get my colors and everything mixed up. You need more examples in your report is probably the next best example, but it's also sounds a little bit evaluative too. So that's why it wasn't the best choice. The other actionable feedback rules are that the feedback should be specific and in the right amount. If a kid's got a paper that's covered with mistakes, just pick the important ones. Don't rip them apart because less can be more sometimes. So it needs to be very specific and also in the right amount. Also timely. We talk about formative assessment. If you give kid feedback a week later, it's not going to have any effect at all. That's why formative assessment in the classroom is so important. And the last one is if you're giving actionable feedback, it has to occur in a supportive environment, because if not, it'll be perceived as a threat.
Hey, Sarah's up there. True or false? Cultivating an academic mindset is critical for helping dependent learners become independent learners. You do not have as much time on this one. Is that true or is that false? Come on, we got a couple more people. One more.
Maybe somebody went to, yay! So yes, the correct answer is this is true. Cultivating an academic mindset is critical for independent learners. In case you've forgotten or don't remember, the characteristics of academic mindset are, from the teacher's perspective, they're validating students' experiences and feelings. Students should feel like their feelings and experiences are important. You build self-efficacy, by helping students achieve through small incremental successes. So you're guiding students to increase slowly and incrementally, not all at once, hitting them in the face. And then also, one of the important things for a growth mindset is to reframe mistakes as information. It's not a mistake. It's just something we just learned from. By the way, this is not me talking. I'm talking about what Hammond said, just so you know.
Hey, which of these steps from Hammond's lesson planning strategy corresponds to the 5E lesson model in the correct order? So is it chewy, chunky, hot, yummy? Is it chew, review, ignite, chunk? Is it ignite, chunk, chew, and review? Or is it review, ignite, chunk, chew?
You have to pull out the 5E from long-term memory and put it into working memory for this one.
Yeah. Think about what you do in the 5Es.
So, got a majority there. This is our little commercial for the 5E. So the 5E is engage, which is her words for that are ignite. Chunk is explore, which is her words for that is chunk, is breaking it up into little pieces of information that they can process. And chew is kind of like our explain, chew all of that around and put it together. And then review is our extend, where you go back and apply or review. So no, it's not identical. And no, she doesn't know about the 5E. I'm pretty sure if she does, she didn't want to say it because it's not her thing. But really, it's just good teaching to do it in this order.
It could be chunky and hot and yummy too, but you know.
True.
George got moved up.
Last chance, everybody.
What does it take to be an effective, culturally responsive teacher? Build learning alliances with students, understand your own cultural reference point, be mindful of balancing rigor and expectations with support, or all of these?
Everybody got it right. Yes. I'm not even going to talk about it. These are all the things that the three things, main things of the main things that Hammond pointed out in her book for culturally responsive teaching. Thus ends the Kahoot.
All right, we got to wait here.
George Elliott.
Oh, look at more.
Mr. Math is a runner-up, and somebody else. Yay, Ashley. Sarah. Noah. Okay. We don't need to do that.
I know, I'm going back.
So that was kind of our way of going through the entire book. I'm not going to actually read these, and we're just going to sit them in front of you for just a second. These are the last 4 bullets in the book, actually. Things that she thinks are really important and that we hope we've hit on. Adding surface cultural to low level learning is not culturally responsive. You have to do more than that. Information processing model follows how people learn. Students need routines and strategies and elaboration strategies in order to help them be more independent with their learning. And I kind of struggled with the last one. Engagement is a means to an end, not the end goal of culturally responsive teaching. I'm not sure I know exactly what she meant by that, but I think it just means it's about the process. It doesn't mean that just because your students are engaged, it's okay. Everything's culturally responsive and fine. I think it's something that we do to help culturally responsive teaching occur, but it's not the only thing. And we leave you before we go to break with actually the last sentence in her book, which is our task as culturally responsive teachers is to find ways to access students' funds of knowledge and understand their home-based ways of learning as starting points for designing more authentic learning experiences. And yes, she uses the term authentic. So we're going to leave this quote up for a little bit, and you guys can go to break. Okay,
welcome back, everybody. I've got my coffee.
Diet Coke.
Can't see it in the picture. And Janice has got her dream office behind her.
Oh, I forgot to change to my K20 background.
That's okay. We like your dream.
Yeah, I don't really live there. That's not what my home looks like, just so you know. This is what my home could look like.
That we use.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get sharing up. There we go. We're now moving on to, okay.
Are you doing this or am I? I can't remember.
Oh, we'll just go, I'll take them to the website.
Okay.
So actually what you're going to do is we're going to go to the K20 Learn website, and Shane is going to put that link in the chat. Plus it's also in your notebook. And we're going to look for a lesson called Our Class Pet, Examining Ecosystems. And so the next thing, what we'd like you to do is just read through that lesson for a few minutes, and then we'll give you directions on what you're going to do after that. So you will go to that website, and it's going to look like this when you get there. For most of you, Rachel and Bo, it might look a little different for you because you might already have registered in it. When you get to this site, you're going to go down here to lessons, And this is what you should see. Hey, Dewey, could you put the K20 Center website in the chat for us, please?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
The Learn site.
The Learn site. The Learn site. So we're looking for class pets. So you might try going up here. Let me go back to the PowerPoint for just a second. Our class pets. That's their official name. Our class pet. And then you have to hit the return button. It doesn't just automatically submit it once you put it in there. You have to hit return. And you will find the lesson. It's a second grade lesson. The other way you could get it is to go with the filters and go to second grade, and you can find it that way. And then you're going to click on this and you should be able to see the lesson. So we want you to just take a few minutes to read through the lesson.
You don't need to read for total understanding. You're just scanning to see what the lesson is about.
And I'll be quiet so you can read.
Can you tell me where to go again? I've got the website.
Okay. Yeah. So if you go back. So it'll look like this. Does it look like that?
Yes.
Okay, then go down here to lessons. Click on lessons. And then I went up here and I put in our class pet. And then I hit the return button on my keyboard.
Okay.
And then you have to actually click on the lesson to the title of the lesson to see it.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so the next thing we'd like you to do, so you've got that lesson, and actually if you want to download it, you can do that, or you can just pull it over into another tab. But in your notebook, you're going to be working in groups for this. Your group is going to be assigned one component of authenticity. And your task is going to be to find places in the lesson where that component is occurring and record the 5E phase in which it is found. So and you're gonna do that on a Jamboard. So I'm gonna pull the Jamboard up and let Janice kind of talk you through the Jamboard a little bit.
Before you leave this, so basically your assignment is going to be, let's say you're assigned construction of knowledge. You're going to look in those places in the lesson where you find construction of knowledge and look for the E where that occurs. So you're just going to be focusing on one component of authenticity. So go ahead and we'll talk about the Jamboard now. I just needed a big picture there.
Yeah. So this is what the Jamboard looks like. So
And go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead, Janice.
I was just gonna say, is the link in there?
It's in their notebook, and we'll put it in the. We'll have Dewey put it in the chat.
Okay.
First of all, remember that the Jamboard up here at the top has pages with these arrows. So if your group is not doing construction of knowledge, maybe they're doing disciplined inquiry, increased depth of knowledge, the use of meaningful questions, you'll go to page 2. So click through there until you find the component that your group is using.
Are you all in the Jamboard? Be able to get into the Jamboard? Okay, just want to make sure you had the right link.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take you back to construction of knowledge, and Janice is going to go through directions.
Yeah, so this looks like a lot, but it's really not that hard. So you're assigned construction of knowledge, your group is. You are going to look through the lesson and say in the explore phase, you found an example of it. Then you would just simply create a sticky note. And it's the explore phase. So the explore phase is green. So you're going to make a green sticky note and then just type really briefly what you saw. And only one person in your group has to do the Jamboard. You can assign somebody to be in charge of that. And so when you're all done, you'll have some sticky notes on construction of knowledge, and you might have several different colors because you might find it in several different phases.
But you might not find it in all of them, and that's okay.
So we're doing this color coded, so it'll be real easy to spot and discuss.
Okay.
Any questions before we send you to your groups? Because we'll show your groups here in a sec. So these are the usual. Gaiman 1 is going to do construction of knowledge. Gaiman 2 is going to be disciplined inquiry, meaningful questions. Shawnee 1, disciplined inquiry, substantive conversation. Shawnee 2, real world connections. And then Tahlequah, we're putting you all back together again. 5 is an awkward number and there's sort of 6. So all of Tahlequah is going to be together for this one for student-centered learning. Okay, and we're going to give you about 10 minutes to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody ready?
Alrighty.
Time to go.
Groups are open.
So we forgot to tell you to assign a spokesperson when you left. We figure you probably thought about that. And if you didn't, I'm talking just a little bit right now so you guys can like think about it. Oh, sorry, that was my timer. Just went off. So what we just want you to do is just say a couple of words about why you chose what you did. So the construction of knowledge group spokesperson is?
That'll probably be Noah.
I'll go, yeah. Sorry. So we put in the engage phase that, you know, they're using higher order thinking to think about things that humans need. They use higher order thinking in the analysis during the explore. The card sort, they're having to, again, think about what they know and observe, make informed decisions. The extend there, they really have to use evidence to base their arguments off of. And then, of course, the evaluate is going to use formative assessment with their written construction that they provide for their argument.
Okay, so you guys kind of felt, oh, sorry. So you guys kind of felt it was all throughout the whole thing?
Yes.
Yeah. So And I want to point out one thing. This is a second grade lesson, so it is it's shorter to read. And you notice there's a lot less complexity to it than there would be to a fifth grade lesson. So what we consider construction of knowledge, higher order thinking in second grade might not look quite the same as it does in third or fourth grade, just because they just have to advance to a little higher level from the bottom. So good job. Next up, the meaningful questions inquiry group.
Oh, yeah.
Does anybody want to speak?
We just found all the questions that were asked in each section, or how we could turn it into a question.
Good strategy. Love that strategy. Yeah. So there are questions throughout the thing is what you're saying.
And open-ended questions, thinking questions where the students have to really think about not just, a closed question where it's a yes or no.
I used to use this lesson actually to teach my methods class, my science methods class. And the teachers love teaching this lesson. It's really fun and the kids really like it a lot. Okay, let's go to next one, substantive conversation.
Okay, we did that one, and we were looking for students sharing and discussing and responding to the ideas. And that was also in a lot of the components of the lesson. Definitely in the engage, asking about what humans need to survive. And then it really continued into most all of the parts of the lesson.
So this one actually has a lot of conversation, and you remember that substantive conversation is student to student for sure when you put students in groups, but substantive conversation can even be defined as student to teacher interactions as long as there's more than one exchange going on. So if you ask a student, what kind of animal, what habitat does this animal have? And the student says ocean, and then you say, good job. That's not substantive conversation. But if you say, tell me more about that, what do you think it has that keeps it in the ocean or whatever? So sometimes we leave that out. It's best to have student-student interactions, but sometimes those teacher-student interactions can be also substantive conversation.
And where you ask the students, a student may answer, and then another student may ask, do you agree or disagree with so-and-so's explanation? And then they have to justify why they do. That's part of that substantive conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, real world connections.
All right, I think that's us. Yeah, this one was kind of easy. I mean, it starts off with the engage of what do humans need to survive. I mean, clearly that applies, to the real world, and then all throughout, they're making connections between, our own ecosystem that we use, and then obviously the pets, like how would they interact with each one? How do plants interact with each one? So, I mean, the real world connection is pretty blatant right there. So we could have done it on each one of them.
Yeah, so it's got the connection there. So this is, as you guys hopefully are starting to see a pattern, we will go to the student-centered learning one finally. And spokesperson.
Okay, student-centered learning, a lot of what you look at there, it is based on student choice or can be individualized for students. So even starting with the question, what do humans need to survive? We talked about how that could be considering their prior knowledge and cultural experience, because you're going to get different answers based on how those students live at home. and what the needs actually are. And then you can go right on down through explore. I notice, I wonder, you're letting them have individual thoughts and discussions there, and then just it would continue on throughout the lesson.
Yeah, so the pattern word, I don't guess it's a pattern, but the thing is that authenticity isn't something let's do, constructive knowledge in the explore. Let's do, disciplined inquiry in the explain, whatever. It's a thing that you infuse throughout the lesson. So it's not, authenticity isn't about memorizing the parts. It's just being familiar with the terms in order to remember what kinds of things you need to be sure are included in a lesson. And you can be reminded of the terms, but we want you to just kind of think about how keeping those things in mind really helps you to make a lesson that's all the things we want it to be: culturally responsive, rigorous, higher order thinking, student-centered. So we wanted to kind of leave you with that thought as a summary of our pre-work that you guys did and how it connects to what we've been doing this week. So yeah, that's where we've gone.
Okay.
Pat, your turn.
Well, we're switching gears a little bit, and we're going to review some of the things about giftedness. And so what we'd like you to do on this is to take a look at the do's and don'ts of teaching gifted students. And this is also a handout that is in the shared drive notebook folder for you guys. So you will have a copy of this. But what we'd like you to do is to look at the first column of the do's and heart something in the do column you would like to work on with your GT students. So you'll have to go back up to your annotation tools and get the heart. And then in the don't column, put star something in the don't column that you want to remember not to do. And then you can also put a question mark next to anything that you have a question about. So yeah, there we go. Thanks, Amy.
I don't see too many question marks.
I got one there.
That's mine.
Is Ashley still here? I can't find her. Oh, there she is. Okay.
I love all the hearts. There's no question marks because I did such a good job the other day going over this with everybody. They remember it all, but I like that there are stars by a variety of different things in the don't category. So, we're all different learners, and so there's different things that we need to be reminded of. So really appreciate some of these and hope that you remember that in your classroom this year. And you don't even know yet. I'm guessing you don't even know who's in your class yet. So you don't even know if you're going to have a whole bunch of gifted and talented students, or maybe very few, or maybe some who will potentially be gifted and talented students in the future. They just haven't been identified yet. So.
Yes, I see.
So it looks like the only questions, and I'll admit one of them was mine, on consider grouping gifted students together for at least part of the school day. Can we talk more a little bit about that? Does that break the rules of mainstreaming? Does that, how often and what, in what way and under what circumstances?
I think in Oklahoma, a lot of districts do this through pullout programs during the school day. That doesn't always mean that gifted students are pulled out like just because of math or just because of like by specific standards, but more like grade level. So third grade gifted and talented students are pulled out on Tuesdays and Thursdays from, 10 to 11 or something like that. It's generally how that plays out. And so therefore it's considered more of a resource type room situation. But that looks different at all school sites and within your districts. So I believe it's in Shawnee, that looks a little different than it does maybe at Tahlequah or Guyman. So, but I know some districts.
I also look at that a little differently too, in thinking about grouping in my classroom. Sometimes we have a tendency to put one of our gifted students with kids that might need help, like in a science, you've got a group of 4. Sometimes it's nice to put your gifted students together because the conversation changes. The conversation that they can have with each other changes.
So flexible grouping is great, and that's more flexible grouping. So it's not putting them together for a long period of time, and those groups have to constantly change. You cannot keep, a group of gifted students together for every single thing you do in math or for every single thing you do. You want to make sure you're constantly moving, but it could also be based on their interests. So whether they're identified as gifted and talented or not, if they have extreme interest in whatever subject, plants or whatever you're studying, then that's one way to group students. So it does matter on pre-assessing students, so where their interests and their strengths are, but that can be one way to do that. But like Pat was saying, not just assuming, well, we got to spread out all the gifted and talented students. We've at some point allowing them to be in a group together so that they can have that challenge. And so the work that they do is not necessarily the same as everybody else. Maybe it's a little bit more challenging for them at the level they need. It's a great idea. Even if you do it, every so often, that's a great idea.
The idea of flexible grouping is I think really great. When I taught, I would always change my groups like daily, but in elementary school, you don't have that option always because you have reading groups and some other kinds of things like that. So it's just something to consider.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's one other question mark down there by offer training and gifted education to all your teachers.
Yeah. So, and if you feel like you have, you want to provide training, or if you have gifted and talented teachers, specific teachers in your school sites, they can do this. They can provide this. We're also the State Department. I just recorded a series of training webinars that will be on the website this afternoon that any teacher can take, that just gives basic understanding a little bit more. I know we kind of talked about gifted and talented over 2 days in this workshop, but it goes into more detail over 4 sessions. So if you want more information on gifted and talented, or other teachers in your building who are interested, that's an option as well. So we're putting out a bunch more training so that way all teachers feel like that they can have access to good best practices to teach their gifted and talented students.
Okay, I'm going to clear that board and move on to our next piece. Well, I thought I was going to. Oh, wait, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, I can do that if you want me.
I got it.
I'm good at clearing.
Okay, here we go.
So I know you're excited about this. We decided instead of dumping everything at the end, we'd kind of do this more toward the end, but not at the very end. We talked, remember, on way back 2 weeks ago when you guys first started and you took some surveys. We talked about having you guys take some surveys for research for us. And one of those 2 surveys that you took was a teacher pedagogy survey. It was the shorter of the 2. And one of the research design things is to have you guys take the pedagogy survey, which is actually just about what you might have learned in this workshop. Take it today at the end of the workshop. And so we're going to have you do that right now. We're going to get you guys into your into the survey with a link, and just if you could just do that right now. This is the shorter one. It shouldn't take too long. If we can do like we did the other day, if you would turn your cameras off and then turn your cameras on when you're done with the survey, that would be super helpful to us, because that lets us know how long we need to give people. And Dewey or somebody, can you, or I can copy the link and put it in.
I think Shayna already put it in there.
Oh, she did? Okay, sorry, I missed it.
And she's got it in there again. So let us know if you have trouble getting into it.
Yes, just turn your camera off and on when you're done.
Don't forget to turn your cameras back on when you're finished. That way we'll know you're done. Oh, Jamie Lee, you've gotten so much younger.
Wow, that was a transformation.
If you can't have some fun. Okay, Rachel said she's done, and Diana said she's done also. Okay, great. I think we're, yeah.
If we've missed you some way, just keep working while we talk. That's fine. We just, I know some people are on phones and stuff. So, and also if you're on a phone and you can't get to the survey, let us know and we'll get you a link right after the session that you, so you can do it sometime later today or this weekend or something.
Okay, yeah, Janice, I think the 15 minutes is going to work just great.
Okay, we're on it then.
Okay.
Trying to find my PowerPoint here. So what we're going to do here, y'all, before I start, we forgot to make an acknowledgement earlier that I would like to make an acknowledgement of, which is that it's a little bit ironic that we did a Kahoot competition to have you guys tell us that collectivism is a good idea. Just in case the irony was not lost on everybody, I wanted to make sure, because actually what made me think of that was looking at the chat and people were like trash talking. So I'm thinking, okay, gotta make sure this isn't, it's just a fun thing. I enjoy Kahoots, but I never win and I don't care, but some people care. So just wanted to acknowledge that. So what we're going to do now is, this is not anywhere near what you guys don't have to stress over it or anything, and you've also gotten a taste of putting a 5E lesson together when we did that with the cracker lesson. But what we want you to do is we're going to give you like a little 15-minute exercise here in just practicing putting your own 5E together. You will not be asked to do this until the end of, or toward the second part of the first semester in the school year, but we just want to give you sort of a feeling for what that would feel like. So what we're going to do is have you do a strategy brainstorm. And if you will go to your notebooks and open activity 2, strategy brainstorm. Give me a second to get there. What we're going to do, and we were going to have you brainstorm a whole bunch here, but you can do as much as you're able to do in 15 minutes, because that's what we're going to give you to do. You're going to get together with some people in your grade level. We're going to group you by grade levels, or as close as we can possibly get. And then we are going to have you just use some resources. Look at the strategies, the K20 Learn website, some of the stuff maybe that we've done with you, some activities, anything you already have at your disposal. So it says strategy, but it could also be some kind of an activity too. And we're going to have you select your whole group, select a standard. And if you scroll down a little bit, there's a standards choice board. So at each level, we've picked some standards that lend themselves pretty well to a 5E lesson. And what we want you to do is, as a group, choose one of those to work from in your grade level, copy it and paste it into your notebook in the green box where it says standard. Pat, did you do a practice one? Okay. And then just start working with your group to brainstorm some ideas about a lesson that you might do to address that standard. What would you do in the engage? What would you do in the explore? What would you do in the explain? Any differentiation opportunities? And this is actually a preview to the workshop that you guys will be doing this fall when we announce the date and time. This is the lesson writing workshop. This is kind of the kinds of things we'll be doing in the lesson writing workshop. So we just want to give you sort of an idea of how that works. So we are going to break you guys into grade level groups.
You can use the Learn website. Remember where it is. And you can go to the strategy there. And you could also go back to your strategy note catcher at the very top that you've been keeping up with during the week. It has all the things that we use. Even if you weren't writing it, it's fine. But to help you kind of come up with those. Okay, Janice,
and we didn't tell them what groups they're in. So you can just know that you're going to magically appear in a group that has people who are in or near your same grade level, and you might want to introduce yourselves to the people in those groups.
That's right. They're roughly labeled, so you'll get an idea of who's all in the group with you. So are we ready for the rooms?
I think so. Any questions before we depart? Okay.
Rooms are open. Welcome back.
Hi, everybody. I know that we did not give you a ton of time for that. And whatever you got done is whatever you got done. We just wanted to give you that little experience of what it's like to kind of collaborate to do a 5E lesson, because we want you guys to be doing a lot of that over the next year or so. In our workshop, that's kind of the process that we're going to use to help you get started on brainstorming some lessons for you to write. And then you can collaborate as much or as little as possible after that. But, you know, our brains are wired for collaboration. So in some ways. So we did, I think, say, dang it, I did that again. We did in some way say something about sharing out, but I think we think people might have a little bit of questions about the next stuff we're talking about. So we're going to go ahead and forego the share out. I know y'all are very disappointed. But I'm sure you came up with some really kind of cool stuff to get you started. So these are, and everybody, Ashley, Pat, just chime in whenever. I'll get us started, but we have lots of things to cover. So I'm sure you all are wondering what happens next. We've done this, now what happens next? And we can answer a lot of those questions. There's still a few that we can answer because we're not sure yet based on some, just logistical things. So if you're thinking about what you should be doing next, after this, we want you guys to think about teaching a 5E lesson. And the 5E lesson is, frankly, for our research, but also an opportunity for you guys to just practice doing a 5E lesson that you've gotten from somewhere else. And so we are going to, by grade level, assign you guys to a 5E lesson that we're going to ask you to teach to your students before October 1st. So August, September. We realize this is a little bit of a burden for you because it's probably not going to be right, in sync with whatever your curriculum alignment is. But we're asking for your help and patience on this because there will be value in it. And the reason we're not going to tell you what lesson it is quite yet is because we are trying to find something that will be the least, I don't know what to say, the least out of whack with your curriculum. So there will be
uh-oh, you froze. So anyways,
August, we will be sending you a link and I need to
okay, Janice is freezing a little bit. So actually we're going to send that lesson out to you via email. So we'll let you know, either give you the link to the lesson or send the actual lesson to you via email that first week in August. So you'll be able to familiarize yourself with that lesson.
One question.
Yes.
Yeah.
One question I have, where we teach 5 periods, do we teach each period or just one period?
Just one is fine.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to do it with all 5 of yours, that's great, but you don't have to video record it 5 times.
The follow-up to that is all of us upper elementary here in Guyman are departmentalized.
Right.
So are you going to send like a math, a reading?
Probably not. So you may be teaching something that's a little bit out of your content area. Noah, what do you teach?
I'm reading intervention.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there may be a case where if you're an instructional coach, you might have to find a colleague that will let you teach her class or his class a couple times so that you can teach a lesson. And we realize that most of the lessons that are done in elementary are not completed in one day. I mean, you'll do a little section of it one day, you'll do a section of it the next day, and then a section of it the next day. For this research study, you will have to record all of the entire lesson. So you might have a little recording from day 1, another one for day 2, another one for day 3, and that's okay. You'll want to familiarize yourself with the swivel, and each of your buildings has 1 or 2 swivels, and you also have people that have used them. But we are also able to help you with that. We have some tutorials on how to use the swivel, and a great thing to do is to use them in your classroom ahead of time on just for fun. And so you kind of get used to them and stuff a little bit. And your kids will get used to them then too. And they won't be going right up to the swivel going, hey, hi in there, that kind of thing. They're used to seeing it up there. It's not very intrusive. It moves around with you with a marker that you wear. It's like a little necklace that has a little tracker on it. So it kind of follows you. But you can also put the tracker on a group table and it'll pick up the recording of that group. So, which is nice. So it comes with a couple different little trackers, microphones.
And just to add to that, we're not evaluating you or your teaching. When we look at those for our research, it's part of the grant. It's how we get to pay you so much money to do all this stuff. The workshop and all of that is through the grant. It helps us as we're evaluating student engagement and some things like that we're looking for. So it's in it, no one else sees it. So please don't worry like, oh no, I didn't look good, or I said something wrong, or are they going to publish this? That none of that is happening. So sorry if I took those words from you, Pat. That's what you're going to say.
So glad you said that, because that makes a big difference. We are not looking at your teaching or anything like that. We are looking at the lesson.
To that at all. They're looking for certain things about, actually they're studying a 5e lesson.
The lesson and stuff. So the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers, in Earl, you will probably receive a 5th grade lesson to teach to your 6th grade. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade are going to be asked to do a pre-survey knowledge test or quiz or whatever you want to call it, assessment before they teach the lesson, and then they'll be asked to do that after they teach the lesson too. K1 and 2, you will not be required to do that part. I mean, feel free to do your own, formative assessment before and after if you'd like to. K1 and 2, you'll just be asked to teach the lesson. So, okay, Janice, or where'd she go? Oh, there she is. She's down at the bottom.
So
I lose you guys.
no, I really did go. I had to leave and come back in.
Oh, she's frozen again. Her internet's giving her trouble.
Uh-oh.
Almost anything you guys have just said.
Okay, so the other thing on this list on the slide that you can see,
there's something wrong.
There's a writing workshop that'll be coming up, and Ashley's trying to get it organized for middle part of October or early November, and we don't have the exact dates on that. And what we're going to do at that one is we'll probably start with that strategy brainstorm that you guys just worked on a little bit. We'll kind of start with that piece, and we'll probably do some reflection pieces off the lesson that you were taught, that you taught, and then we're going to start writing. You're going to start writing your own 5E at that time. So that will be coming up.
And I can say a little bit more about that too. So the reason it's in October, I'm meeting with the GT coordinators who are working with me on this grant. So for Guyman, it's Lori Aubrey, and for Tahlequah, it's Libby, and for Shawnee, it's Jenny. So if you have any questions related to anything, you can contact those people as well. And so they keep in constant contact with me, but we're working on the contracts with your district. So that's why those workshops, again, that will have additional payment and stuff that comes, but it'll be just handled a little bit differently rather than paying you directly. And so just so you're aware, but yeah, we're setting those up. The writing workshop is GT related, and because this grant is gifted and talented related. So it's going to be how to write lessons and make sure we're addressing gifted and talented. So it has a multi-purpose, if you will. So.
Oh, Rachel, thanks for the little comment about using the swivel. Because once you get, I mean, it's when you start using a new piece of equipment, sometimes you're like, oh, but once you get into it, it's like, oh yeah, I could do it, and just reach out to somebody to help with that.
Yeah. And then I'll say this because there was a question in the chat. So if you have any concerns about payment for any of this, please feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat one more time, but I think you all should have it by now. The process very quickly is Candy sent you the vendor payee form and you submitted that back to Candy. She submitted it to OMES, and they are supposed to send you an email asking for the routing information for direct deposit. I don't know how long it takes to get from the lady at OMES and Candy to so if you haven't received it yet, because I know a few of you haven't, I'm watching that. So we are hoping that will happen soon. So I'm checking on that now for you, but you're welcome to email me anytime you have questions about that. And I will always be glad to check on that because we want to get you paid for your work. That's part of the point. So.
Okay, good.
And to piggyback on that just a little bit, I missed pretty much everything you guys just said, but I'm pretty sure you didn't say this part. So we are going to give you guys a professional development certificate for participating in this. And it's 30 hours, 10 hours for the pre-work and 20 hours for this week for being here and working on stuff and doing your notebook and all. I think almost everybody has finished all of the pre-work. There's a couple of you that may have missed an assignment here and there, which I'm going to get in contact with you and let you know to finish up a couple of things.
Oh, boy, she's really having trouble with that internet.
It's pretty much good to go. Probably if you've missed something, it's because you haven't submitted it. So I'll just work with you separately on that. So that's how we're determining that you finished the pre-work. And then of course your attendance here, or if you were unable to attend for small parts, we want to check and make sure you got to the recording of the session, which they should all be posted for sure by Monday. For sure, the first 3 days are posted now in eCadence. So those are things that you might want to consider.
Okay, so so the $800, you guys, is for this institute, and then there's the other $200 for teaching the lesson and uploading the swivel. That's one thing. And then the writing workshop is a whole separate thing. And so there'll be additional pay for that. Correct, Ashley? Okay. And in your notebook, you guys, what I'm showing up on the screen right now is a page in your notebook, and it has next steps. It's kind of just a little check sheet for you. And make plans to teach your lessons, schedule your teaching dates, schedule to have the swivel to record each section. You'll need to, check with your librarian or whoever has the swivel and make sure that you've signed up for it so somebody else isn't using it the same times. And then it talks about the pre-knowledge survey, teach and record, and then the grades 3 and 4 give the post-knowledge survey. And then your link, and we'll send you an email with where, usually the link just goes into the Swivel Cloud, and then you send us that email and we can get it. But like Ashley said, it's very private. The only people that would look at it would be us. So you don't have to worry about kids' faces or anything like that either, because it does not go public at all. Okay, so the next thing, this is kind of what the swivel looks like if you haven't seen it. And an iPad comes with it at your school. Or you could put your phone in there too, it doesn't matter. And it's about, this big. And I've seen this, a couple teachers like bring in a bar stool, just a real simple bar stool from home or something, or maybe they had one in their classroom, and it sits on that, and that worked pretty well. And or some kind of something, a cart or something that you can get from the library or something, and it just sits right there. And okay.
I'm going to break in because I'm fielding some questions here. So I want to, and again, if I'm repeating something you guys just said, I apologize. I really got checked out there. So as far as the project, as far as the grant, the lesson that you guys are teaching, that we're giving you, the research lesson, is part of the grant. So it's part of your requirements as being in the grant. We're doing the payment as kind of a incentive, because occasionally people will just drop and not do something. So we're hoping that you will all stay in, and that's really the reason the payment is separate. We don't want to pay you for something that you haven't done yet. And then, or we're not allowed to. So that's, we had that question. And the other thing is, and Ashley, if you've already said this, I am so sorry, but that one lesson occurs before the 1st of October. Then we have the workshop for the lesson writing workshop. And then you guys are going to write a lesson, hopefully one first semester and one second semester. And starting the 1st of October, when that part of the contract starts, Pat and I will be your coaches, and we haven't divided that up yet, as far as I know. So you'll have one of us as a coach. So we won't be there to coach you for your lesson that you're going to do in September. That's just one that we want you to teach on your own. No, I mean, if you have questions about teaching it, yeah, call us, ask us, all of that. We're there for you. But the actual coaching sessions don't begin until after the writing workshop.
Yep, that's all correct. Thank you for clarifying that, Janice. I appreciate it.
Hey, and I did see in the chat that most of your swivels came with a tripod. Yay. So you don't have to use a bar stool.
Yeah, and if something happens, I have more tripods if your schools need one, but your school should be good because we used them last year. So
good. Okay. So now that we've done all of that, we are back to the to our stoplight sticky. And so if you will take your annotation tools and make a comment or a star on how you're feeling.
Or a heart or whatever.
Heart. Heart, I should. Oh, yay. Okay, good. Yay.
Okay, we have movement. And once again, Shelley is making a full heart. Or Camille, I can't remember who's doing that. Love it.
Noah, cautious but hopeful. That's great.
We don't want any of you to be overwhelmed. If you feel, we like to stretch you. We like to stretch your capabilities and your abilities and your thinking, but we don't want to slip you into an amygdala hijack. We don't want that to happen. So
but if you are feeling that way,
if you're feeling that, we need to know.
Yeah, we need to know.
And if you have any questions along the way, you can reach out to any of the three of us. We are here to help and to assist and make sure you know what's going on. So we're always glad to do that. You have our information, I believe. So.
Okay.
So, and just on behalf of everybody, and you guys can say something if you want to, I cannot tell you how much fun and how much we've enjoyed working with you this week. You all are amazing, and we cannot begin to start working with you throughout the school year. You have been, I know everybody says this, but you have been the best group we've ever had. But I mean, I'm not, you guys are just amazing. I mean, and I know probably part of it is because some of your colleagues have participated before and they've been helpful and encouraging for you too. So we really appreciate it. Thank you for donating your time. Thank you for coming to these sessions, even though you had kids crawling all over you and you were in the car and dropping people off at swim lessons or whatever it is that you've had to do throughout this living your life and keeping it together. We appreciate your time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, and thank you also for your patience as we've been maneuvering all of these things back and forth too with you.
We are learning as we go.
So day 5, make sure you go back into eCadence. There's a couple things to finish up. So you have an exit ticket in there, and this exit ticket is a perception of the entire 2 weeks of the workshop. And then there is a TREC rapid feedback.
The usual.
The usual TREC feedbacky thing.
And the TREC feedback is about today.
Yes. So the TREC feedback
the exit ticket is about the whole 2 weeks.
And if you have a few more things you need to finish up from previous days, you have a little bit of time to do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through carefully this afternoon, give you reminders if you've missed something, and then we would like to try and have everybody through by Monday if you possibly could. I don't think there's going to be too much of a problem with that because it seems like everybody's pretty much already finished anyway. Yeah, and you'll get reminders.
Shelley, we're excited for you guys. You all are amazing teachers and we're excited to work with you. And I know last year was hard, but this year is exciting to kind of have some fresh perspective. So we're glad you're with us.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of let you guys go. We'll be hanging around here for a little bit if you have any questions. So here we are. Bye. Have a great weekend too.
See you soon.
Mm-hmm. Tammy, we'll let you know. Janice will let you know if you're missing anything. So
yeah, I won't leave anybody hanging because at this point, except for in a couple of cases where I have to go and look at a few things, it's all negotiable. If you've missed something, you'll know that you've missed it. I'm at the moment assume that you're okay if you think you're okay.
Yep.
I know you guys all like having those boxes checked. I'm checking them this afternoon.
So good to see you all. Have a good weekend.
I have questions.
Yes.
So the lesson that I have to video, you're going to provide me the lesson and I have to teach it, correct?
Yes.
And then I also have to write 2 other lessons.
Correct.
Yeah. But don't worry about those. Don't worry about those 2 other lessons right now. Just they'll give you a lesson and that's the one you're going to teach. And you have a flexible timeline to teach it. So sometime before the end of September.
And the 2 lessons that you're writing, you decide when, where, and how.
Okay, so my second question, last year was my first year teaching, and so college is still super fresh in my head. Is this going to be like a template from college that is like 5 pages long and you repeat yourself over and over?
No, it's a 5E.
It's a 5E lesson from the Learn
5E
Site.
lesson.
Like the ones that you looked at, the one you looked at today.
Okay, because again, college is still fresh in my mind. And
Yeah.
I'm going,
You have the template, it tells you kind of how to do it, and you just
Okay.
need to go in and do it to the best of your ability.
Okay.
If you have a situation with your students where you have to make little tiny tweaks to the lesson, as long as you keep the spirit of the lesson, you're fine.
okay, because
Oh,
I'm
template.
also returning to college on August 1st, so I'm a little overwhelmed with life right now.
You going for your master's?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
I mean,
You
I
can
know
do
I
it,
did my
though.
whole bachelor degree while working, so I'm not concerned. I'm just like,
No, it seems a little overwhelming right now, Sarah, but we're doing everything in steps and stages. So we kind of just told you about everything up front, but we're spreading all this out. So
okay, so the lessons that I'm gonna write, like, that's not even like right now. Like I can.
Nope.
Do not even think about that right
We're
now.
not even gonna think about it.
I need to do that.
What?
Real quick, do we want to stop the recording at 12 for the days? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.